His Excellency Timothy Harris, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. May I request protocol to escort His Excellency?
Me complace dar la
I have the great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, His Excellency Timothy Harris. I invite him to address the General Assembly.
Thank you. Mr. President, Excellencies, it is indeed an honor for me to address this august body of the United Nations in my capacity as Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. This privilege of service has been bestowed on me following the people's historic victory at the polls in February of this year. I take pleasure in sharing the perspectives of the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis and matters before this 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly. My delegation is pleased that the focus of your theme, the United Nations at 70, a new commitment to action, will shed special light on the Sustainable Development Goals, which form the basis of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We are in full agreement with you that the new Partnerships for Sustainable Development will be at the center of the work program of the United Nations until the year 2030. We are optimistic, Mr. President, that the post-2015 development agenda, when taken in conjunction with the recently adopted Addis Ababa Action Agenda and a forward-looking and responsible outcome in December at the COP21 Paris Climate Change Conference, all together represent a courageous step forward for humanity, which will, if fully implemented, yield the kind of future that our children and grandchildren deserve. So onward with action. We are reminded that action is required to create decent jobs for our people, build schools for our children, deliver quality health care for all, and provide affordable homes to our working mothers and fathers. Be assured, Mr. President, that St. Kitts and Nevis stands committed to the process of implementation, which of course must include a robust, systematic, and effective monitoring and review process. Climate change for us is of utmost importance. It must never be placed on the proverbial back burner. I dare submit that for small island developing states like St. Kitts and Nevis, it remains an existential threat. Our well-being in its economic, social, and environmental dimensions is threatened by natural disasters, devastating floods, sea level rise, persistent drought, coastal erosion, and ocean acidification. These acts of nature have capacity to undermine our economic growth. They threaten food security, and they bring hardships on our people. The challenge to our vital tourism industry is unsettling, and the loss of entire coastal communities is devastating to our islands. The current situation in Dominica represents what islands face when dealing with climate change, and we call on the international community to do more to help small island developing states adapt and adjust. We would like consideration be given not just to climate change adaptation and mitigation, but also disaster response, recovery, and insurance. Mr. President, while we speak of adaptation to climate change and the wider issue of disaster risk mitigation, it is incumbent on us to underscore the significant financial burden place on national budgets to implement projects designed to build resilience and increase our chances of survival in the face of climate events. Access to global funding mechanisms, such as the Green Climate Fund, is of critical importance to us. For too long, we have been hamstrung by complex application procedures which have prevented us from accessing vital funds to enable us to achieve sustainable development. We welcome the recent decision by the Green Climate Fund Board to aim for a floor of 50% of the adaptation allocation for particularly vulnerable countries. We welcome the importance placed on filling capacity gaps in accessing and managing climate finance. Access to finance, if it is to be meaningful, must be simplified and it must be timely. My delegation welcomes the establishment of the SIDS docks facility. If it is to be meaningful, must be simplified and it must be timely. My delegation welcomes the establishment of the SIDS docks facility, which will serve as a clearinghouse for implementation of climate-related projects in small island developing states. We acknowledge the assistance provided by our partners in development. We are convinced that working closely with our partners to build effective and meaningful partnerships will accelerate the pathway to achieving sustainable development in all its dimensions. St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. President, has emerged as a leader in renewable energy development in the Caribbean. Even now, our country has a mix of wind and solar in our energy grid. By 2016, we shall add waste to energy, and by 2018, we shall add geothermal energy on the island of Nevis. We are working assiduously to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and so reduce our carbon footprint. In this ambitious agenda, I thank all our international partners who have lent their technical assistance and expertise in advancing the renewable energy trust in my country. Mr. President, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis is fully committed to social equity, justice, people's empowerment, good governance, transparency, and of course, prosperity for all. We are a people's government, born out of the desire to put the development of our people first. Hence, we are hoping to build broader constituencies of support and several fronts in addressing the crime problem. At home, we instituted a 6-point plan in our fight to reduce violent crimes in particular. We are investing in new equipment and training to support our law enforcement professionals who prevent, detect, and solve crimes. We are working hard to build a new professional culture among and between our law enforcement agencies. And we are encouraged by new statistics pointing to a decline in major crimes in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And yet we accept that much more still needs to be done. Therefore, our government is determined to aggressively confront the issues of crime. We will work on multiple tracks, including working to empower families and communities through education, skills development initiatives, and of course, civic programs. We will work in the schools, with NGOs, and our religious leaders, and with the youth themselves, especially those most likely to become targets or perpetrators of criminal behavior. We will offer them alternatives. We will offer them opportunities for personal growth, for decent work, and for constructive engagement in our society. This is a challenge to which we are committed and which we have to win. However, if small states are to overcome The challenges posed and exacerbated by transnational criminal activities, we must work in partnership. We need the support of gun-producing countries to restrict the movement of illegal guns, light weapons, and ammunition. Those who produce the firearms must do more to stop them from reaching our shores. We must share information and improve access to opportunities, education, and employment, because sustainable development is not achievable in an environment of crime and violence. The prosperity which must be built brick by brick, day by day, will become realizable only in the context of peaceful and safe societies. Mr. President, St. Kitts and Nevis, like the rest of CARICOM, has consistently lent its voice to the clarion call for greater attention to be paid to the harmful impact of non-communicable diseases to our main resource, our human capital, in our country and indeed throughout the CARICOM region. We wish to reiterate our call for a stronger global response to combating this in developing countries like ours. We remain hopeful that the inclusion of NCDs in the Sustainable Development Goals and the implementation of the targets and indicators at the national level will serve to reverse the high incidence of NCDs at the national, regional, and global levels. The famous adage, "A nation's health is a nation's wealth," resonates well with us. We would therefore urge the United Nations, through its specialized agencies and regional offices, to play a leading role in this regard. We are pleased with the work of UNAIDS and our own CARFA and PANCAP in CARICOM, and we call for continued global solidarity in this endeavor. Indeed, my own country is on track to achieve zero mother-to-child transmission by the end of 2015, and we are committed to the CARICOM region becoming the first region in the world to end AIDS by 2030. Mr. President, my government is pleased to draw the attention of the international community to the invaluable contribution made by the government of the Republic of China, Taiwan, in the areas of international cooperation, health, technology, peace, and security. We live in an age where global partnership is a prerequisite for solving complex problems at the international level. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis is proud to announce that the relationship established over 3 decades ago has yielded benefits in all areas of sustainable development. This level of engagement between developing country and partner in development is indeed a model fit for consideration by small states like St. Kitts and Nevis in their quest to achieve sustainable development. As we look to models and arrangements for advancing our global agenda, we found pragmatic beneficial value in our Petrocaribe agreement with Venezuela in support of poverty alleviation and social cohesion. Venezuela under President Chavez and now President Maduro must be commended for showing the world that there can be a better way and a more helpful way of driving the development agenda. St. Kitts and Nevis is, of course, cognizant of the territorial issues which exist between Venezuela and our CARICOM member state of Guyana. We expect that the leaders of Venezuela and Guyana will resolve these issues peacefully and in accordance with international law. My government stands willing to assist, along with CARICOM, in the resolution of these very challenging issues. Mr. President, St. Kitts and Nevis is indeed pleased by the recent decision by the governments of Cuba and the United States of America to establish diplomatic relations. This resolution has long been advocated by CARICOM. This is the opportune time for us to usher in a new era of regional partnership and cooperation. My own country has benefited substantially from capacity building in the areas of education and health due to partnership with Cuba. We applaud several prescriptions outlined in President Castro's address to this Assembly, calling for better arrangements for Caribbean countries and for special and differential treatment. We concur that the issue of reparation must be seen in the broader context of the evil of slavery and its lingering negative impact on the development of the Caribbean. Reparation has to be considered as a pathway to addressing the perennial disadvantages that slavery has caused to our economies and our societies. In conclusion, Mr. President, as part of our development agenda, St. Kitts and Nevis will work daily to ensure that every citizen has access to high-quality health care, a 21st century education, decent work, and an improved quality of life consistent with the 2030 SDG agenda. We remain eager to work within the United Nations system, but the United Nations must be re-energized, retooled, and refocused to meet the challenges of the 21st century. In fact, we want to see a United Nations strengthened and reflective of the reality of our world, the needs of its membership, and the wishes of our diverse and swelling populations. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we are building a modern, responsible, and responsive society rooted in democracy and the rule of law. We are optimistic that in the months and years ahead, the United Nations and its specialized agencies will be more robust, nimble, modern, and responsive in order to complement our work and to be better able to prevent crises in ways that effectively improve lives. It is through these type of commitments and action that we will transform our beloved St. Kitts and Nevis, the United Nations, and indeed the world. I thank you, and may God bless the people and country of St. Kitts and Nevis.
En nombre de la Asamblea.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis for the statement just made and would request protocol to escort His Excellency.